July 2022. USS Harry S. Truman, Mediterranean Sea. An FA-18 Super Hornet sits chained to the flight deck. $70 million of American steel and avionics. The ship hits a wave. The chains snap. The jet slides across the deck like a hockey puck. It tumbles over the side, into the sea. One chain failed, then another, then 5 more. Most people focus on the lost jet, the taxpayer money evaporating into salt water. But that's not what keeps sailors awake at night. The real nightmare is what happened 3 seconds before those chains broke. Green water, solid seawater crashing over the bow. Not spray, not foam. A wall of ocean weighing thousands of tons, traveling at the speed of the ship. When green water hits the flight deck, it doesn't care about your $70 million fighter jet. It will take the jet, it will take the tractors, it will take you. Unlike a missile, you can't shoot it down, you can't outmaneuver it. You can only chain everything to the deck and hope the steel holds. Today, we're breaking down the engineering that keeps 100,000 tons of steel from becoming a tomb, the procedures, the hardware, and the people who crawl across that deck in the dark to hold it all together. If you respect the sailors who face this every deployment, type "proud" in the comments. Before we talk about chains, we need to talk about where the battle is actually fought. Flight deck control. In a world of supercomputers and AI, you would expect digital maps. You'd be wrong. Inside, the most important tool is a scratched-up physical table called the Ouija board. It's covered in plastic cutouts, simple shapes representing billion-dollar assets. Why? Because computers crash, screens go black. But when the ship is listing 20 degrees and the power dies, the Ouija board never fails. It is the only absolute truth on the ship. When the forecast hits Sea State 6, the handler plays a high-stakes game of Tetris. He stares at those plastic pieces. He has to make a choice. Which jets go down to the hangar bay for protection? And which ones have to stay up on the roof to face the storm? It looks like a board game. It's not. One wrong move on this plastic board, and a real $70 million jet gets washed overboard. There is no reset button. The pressure in that room is heavier than the air outside. Once the plan is locked, the call goes out over the 5MC. Set heavy weather tie-downs. That's when the real work begins, not in the control room. Out on the deck, where the war against physics is fought with steel and muscle. Look at the floor. Every 6 feet there's a star-shaped hole welded into the steel. They call it a pad eye. Each one is rated for 20,000 pounds. 10 tons of load in any direction before the steel fails. In calm weather, a Super Hornet needs 6 chains, 6 pad eyes, 6 points of contact. But calm weather is a luxury carriers can't count on. When a ship pitches in heavy seas, the aircraft doesn't just sit there. The weight multiplies. As the deck heaves upward violently, that 32,000-pound jet transforms into a 100,000-pound wrecking ball trying to slide off the edge. 6 chains will snap like thread. So the rule changes. 20 per jet. Now do the math on the human cost. An air wing has 60 aircraft. That's 1,200 tie-downs that must be hauled, hooked, and tensioned by hand. There are no machines to do this, just muscle. Blue shirts haul these 14-pound chains from the catwalks. They drape them over their shoulders like steel scarves until their collarbones bruise. They crank the tensioners until the aircraft's shock absorbers compress. The jet must become part of the ship. If it bounces, the chain snaps. If the chain snaps, the jet becomes a missile. But jets aren't the only danger. Red shirt, aviation ordnance men have a different nightmare. They have to secure skids loaded with 500-pound GBU-12 bombs. In 60-knot winds, these carts on wheels can turn into battering rams. So red shirts nest them together near the island, washing them into a fortress of explosives. And often, when the ship takes a violent roll, they execute a move called riding the skid. They wrap their arms around the bomb casings to anchor themselves. Because a loose bomb is worse than a loose jet. Think about that reality. You are hugging a live explosive to stay alive, while the ocean tries to throw you overboard. A Nimitz-class carrier has a command crew of a dozen people. But the most critical person in heavy weather isn't the captain. It's the helmsman. Often, this is a 20-year-old kid, maybe 2 years out of boot camp. And right now, he is steering 100,000 tons of nuclear-powered steel through a storm. The helm itself is a wheel. Old school, brass and steel. In calm seas, it's smooth, but in heavy weather, the wheel fights back. Here's what happens. The ship pitches forward. The bow digs into a wave. The entire vessel shudders. Then it pitches back. The stern drops. And for a split second, the massive bronze propellers come out of the water. They call this cavitation. The whole ship vibrates violently. The wheel jerks in the helmsman's hands. He has to fight it, muscle against machine. He must keep the bow pointed into the waves, because if he loses control, the ship turns broadside. Beam seize. That's when the carrier starts rolling. And if the ship rolls more than 7 degrees, aircraft slide. Chains break. People die. So the helmsman white-knuckles the wheel. His arms burn. His shoulders scream. But he holds the course. Because 5,000 people depend on him not flinching. A Nimitz-class carrier displaces 100,000 tons. That mass creates stability. In Sea State 6, classified as very rough, the carrier might roll 3 degrees. Uncomfortable, but survivable. Now picture the ship next to it. The destroyer Escort, 9,000 tons. Same ocean, same storm. While the carrier rolls 3 degrees, the small boy is rolling 30, sometimes 45. At 10 degrees of roll, the destroyer galley secures the deep fryer. Not because of regulations, but because a vat of 375-degree oil at a 30-degree angle is a bomb waiting to go off. They call it the forbidden deep fryer. When that fryer goes off, the crew knows. No hot food. For days, they eat cold sandwiches in the dark. They have to do the destroyer lean, walking at a 45-degree angle just to get down the hallway without smashing into a wall. Meanwhile, on the carrier, the galley serves steak and lobster night. The ship's inclinometer barely moves past 3 degrees. This is the contrast. The carrier is a floating city. The destroyer is a washing machine. But don't mistake the carrier's stability for safety. Because there's one thing that doesn't care about your 100,000 tons. Green water. Picture the flight deck at night. Rain, wind, sea spray mixing with jet exhaust. The brown shirts, plane captains, are out there. Their job in heavy weather is simple. Check the chains every 30 minutes. Chains work loose. The ship pitches. The aircraft suspension compresses and rebounds. A slack chain is useless, so they crawl under the fuselage. In driving rain. In 60-knot wind. But here's what most people don't see. The surface they're crawling on. The flight deck isn't smooth steel. It's coated with non-skid. Epoxy mixed with aluminum oxide. Basically, industrial-grade 40 grit sandpaper. When a plane captain drops to their knees, the non-skid tears through their uniform. It shreds the fabric. It grinds into their skin. After 30 minutes, they're bleeding. But they keep crawling, because a loose chain means a sliding jet, and a sliding jet means death. They know this because it's happened before, not in theory, not in training videos, in real life, on real ships, to real sailors. January 1987, the Mediterranean Sea, the USS John F. Kennedy. She is steaming through a violent storm. Sea State 7, waves cresting at 40 feet. The ship pitches, the bow rises, then it drops. A wave hits, not spray, not foam. A solid wall of green water traveling at 30 knots. It slams into elevator number 3 with the force of a freight train. An A6 intruder, chained to the platform, is ripped loose. The 27,000-pound jet is swept across the deck like driftwood, smashing everything in its path. But the jet isn't the tragedy. 4 sailors were on that elevator, checking chains, doing their job. The green water takes them. All 4 are swept over the side, into the freezing black water. Search and rescue launches immediately. The entire battle group turns around. 3 sailors are recovered. Hypothermic, injured, but alive. 1 is never found. Aviation bosun's mate, 3rd Class Smith. AB-3 Smith was 22 years old, from a small town most people have never heard of. He joined the Navy to see the world. He ended up at the bottom of the sea. No body recovered, no closure. Just a name on a memorial wall, and a folded flag sent home to a family that will never get answers. This is the cost, not the billion-dollar jet. The kid who was checking chains in the dark. The ocean doesn't negotiate. It doesn't offer second chances. And it sure as hell doesn't care about your rank, your training, or how many chains you've tensioned. But the mission doesn't stop for grief. Even after a tragedy, the jets still have to land. Now let's talk about landing. The optical landing system, the meatball, is an automated visual glide slope indicator. It uses gyroscopes to compensate for the ship's motion, giving pilots a stable reference. But it has limits. When the deck heaves more than 5.5 feet vertically, the meatball can't keep up. When the deck pitches more than 1.5 to 2 degrees, the system becomes unreliable. At that point, the landing signal officer makes a call: wave off, divert, or MOVLES. MOVLES. Manually operated visual landing aid system. This is the backup, the last resort, the procedure nobody wants. Here's how it works. The LSO stands on a platform near the stern. They hold a physical handle connected to a light repeater on the deck. They watch the pitching deck. They watch the approaching aircraft, and they manually move the handle up and down to indicate the glide slope. No computers, no automation, one human guiding another onto a moving steel plate in the dark. The LSO has to anticipate the ship's heave. If the deck is dropping, they signal the pilot to power down. If the deck is rising, they signal power up. They're matching the aircraft's descent to the rhythm of the ocean. It's terrifyingly primitive. The pilot is coming in at 150 miles per hour. The deck is moving in 3 dimensions: pitch, roll, heave. The LSO is watching all of it, processing the motion, and moving that handle in real time. One wrong signal, and the jet slams into the deck too hard. Landing gear collapses. The aircraft breaks apart. Fire. Explosions. Another wrong signal, and the jet's tailhook misses the wire. The pilot bolters. But in a storm, low fuel means no second chance. The LSO understands the stakes. So does the pilot, and both of them are betting their lives that the brown shirts have checked those chains. Because if a jet crashes on landing in heavy weather, it's not just the pilot at risk, it's everyone on that deck. A MOVLES recovery in a storm is the ultimate test of naval aviation. The pilot trusts the LSO with their life. The LSO trusts their judgment. And both of them trust that the ocean won't cheat. But sometimes it does. So why does the Navy do this? Why not just pull into port when the weather gets bad? Why risk billion-dollar jets and irreplaceable lives in a storm? Strategy. If America's carriers only operated in calm seas, every adversary would know exactly when to strike. They'd watch the weather forecasts, they'd wait for the storms, they'd attack when our air cover is grounded. The carrier must maintain presence in calm seas, in typhoons, in conditions that would send any sane commercial ship running for port. That presence is the deterrent. It's the message. It says, we don't hide, we don't back down, and we sure as hell don't let the weather dictate our operations. But that message comes at a cost. It costs the handler his sleep, moving plastic pieces on the Ouija board, knowing one wrong call means real casualties. It costs the helmsman his strength, fighting cavitation, and holding the wheel steady while the entire ship shudders beneath him. It costs the blue shirts their backs from hauling 20 chains per jet. It costs